Hey, what is up, everyone? It's Rich. All right, welcome to a video. This is going to be fun. I actually was just coming on to, basically acknowledge that we've made it to 19,000 subs here, which is actually very, very cool. I'm excited. I'm excited to hit 20. I'm excited to go beyond that, but most importantly, I'm just excited to be able to interact with all of you and share art and talk about art and what I would consider a pretty welcoming and fun, lighter YouTube channel. You know, it's interesting. I'll cover a whole bunch of ground. We're gonna look at original art that I'm actually selling today. So if you like black and white scans of original art, and also if you're an art collector, this will be a great video for you. If you're not an art collector and you're just an artist, it should be fun to look at, and I can talk a little bit about it. So this will be probably a 30-minute video, but let me talk a little bit about how I even got into YouTube. So, I mean, initially, it was weird. I mean, I remember YouTube being around for a few years, early on when like YouTube first came on, and I was like, this is kind of stupid. It seems like it's my reaction to just about anything that happened online because I remember not being into blogs and all that stuff. I always think it's kind of corny and a little too narcissistic. It's weird because I mean I'm fairly outgoing, but I'm also pretty shy. So it's a weird balance that I have to keep with things because generally speaking, I'm pretty reclusive, but I'm also outgoing. It's a weird duality with me. But anyway, I there was channels that I really liked on YouTube. A lot of them were just really genuinely uber fans of different things. One was two statue collectors that collected sideshow statues. That kind of turned me on to that community and their passion and like knowledge of statues was really, really exciting and it was quite fun. And they were one of the first channels that I would watch live stream. Unfortunately, both guys passed away. Just a very, very weird coincidence. But one of them died like just out of the blue, and that was shocking enough. And then within a year, the other guy passed away, and I don't know what happened to either one of them, but really, really a bummer. But they're called what was it called? It's Lou and Vic. Oh, Immortalized in Stone was the name of their YouTube channel. Their videos are still up, which I'm very happy about. I've saved a lot of them anyway, but they were one of the early ones. There's a guy that focuses on Van Halen named Johnny Bean, Beane, and I really liked his channel a lot, and so he kind of inspired me. Just there was such a cool fandom. It was just three guys talking about their love of guitar and Van Halen. That was really fun. And then the first comic book artist that I saw on YouTube, and I'm a huge fan of his work, is Jonathan Glapion. And Glapion had uploaded just a couple of videos and then kind of never really came back to it. So I think a combination of those different things sort of got me thinking about it. And then I creeped on YouTube and I was doing it in a very sort of casual way. In the back of my mind, I always kind of thought of it as is just kind of going out and testing it out, and testing it out just ended up being like a 4-year thing. So I've been on YouTube for about 4 years, maybe a little tiny bit longer. It could be creeping up on 5. I lose track of time. But over a period of time, I think I've actually turned it into a pretty fun channel for people. And again, something that you can kind of look forward to and decompress. There's enough compression everywhere else. It's like there's got to be one place that you can go and just sort of enjoy what you enjoy and not have like all these things stacked on it. So I really do try to keep it that way. And, as I've said before, for a long time too, not just over the last year or so, everyone is welcome here. I'm trying to never have to use mods with live streams, and I've never blocked anyone. I've never removed a comment. If someone talks shit to me, it's fine. I can take it. I could dish it out too. So if you go too far, you know, trust me, it can go both ways. I will hammer your ass. But past that, yeah, let's have some fun. We're going to look at some art. All of this stuff is for sale. I'll have an email address that if anyone's interested in buying art, you can shoot me an email and I'll send you the prices for everything. I'm not going to go over the prices on all this stuff over the video, but so this is Doug Mahnke double page spread from Justice League. I guess it's issue 43. And this is inked over the original pencils. We can go into full screen mode, it doesn't really matter. And yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful spread. It's probably a little like if you had the original, you'd be able to see like a little line somewhere approximately here where the two boards are connected together. But this it probably goes right through here. But this was cleaned up for color, so yeah, inked over the original pencils, a beautiful, beautiful piece. I mean, you want a money shot and you're into double page spreads, this is a winner. You throw this thing in like a beautiful glass frame and hang it up on the wall. You know, you've got like a really, really fun thing that you can come back to and revisit again and again and again. One of the first, so right when I got to Wildstorm, Scott Doombeer, who does the artist editions for IDW, was hired too, and he was an art dealer, and so he was the first person that I ever saw with original art that was for sale. And I tell people this story, and it really is 100% true. I didn't know when I got to Wildstorm what people did with the original art. If I would have got to Wildstorm and they would have told me that everything that I draw for them they keep, I would have never questioned it because I had no idea. I didn't know anyone really doing comics. I mean, I knew one or two people, but I didn't really understand how the business worked or anything like that. But I was just astounded with all this original art Scott had either was selling for artists or had bought and was selling. And I immediately started collecting stuff, but I had a very, very limited budget. But it was such a fun hobby, and I'll tell you what, if you hang on to the stuff long enough, you will make your money back and more. I don't think I've ever lost money on anything that I've ever bought, and most of the time, you'll make it back a few times over. So original comic art is actually a really solid investment if you buy the right stuff and then you're patient. You can't pick it up, especially if you're paying like a premium price, and expect to flip it right away and make your money back. You need to be patient and wait a few years. It's the way it goes. Stuff matures, but it does mature. This is a great piece. But yeah, you can see it put a little bit of splatter here. Sometimes splatter will read a little tiny bit blue when you scan it, like you see here. It doesn't really look like that on the original, but for whatever reason, it seems to refract a little bit of a blue hue, but the paint is white. So I've never really understood why it does that. But generally speaking, if I was gonna I can show you, I have a set of actions that I use for it, but if I want to turn, or let's see, we're removing blue crops, I just hit this action button that I made and just see it removes it all, and then I can go in and with the dodge tool lighten up do you see the little bit of the logo and stuff that's still showing, and I can just bleach it out with this tool. So this is kind of how I prepare a thing. But this is interesting, I'll point this out. Do you see these lines? They're not really there on the original. If you go back, it like the ink will cover it up a little bit. You can see the blue, but that's such a big pain in the ass. The one book that it was so frustrating with was Finch and I would do these double page spreads, and generally speaking, where the spread would connect here, David would generally have a lot of detail. It would be rocks or speed lines or whatever kind of running across, like framing the pieces, and you have to match all that up. So I would scan the piece. You can't, I suppose there's scanners that could scan a double page spread, but generally speaking, you kind of scan the double page spread as 2 scans and then you piece it together. But matching up speed lines is, oh my god, it's the biggest pain in the ass. This is cool. Excuse me. These are like slightly, and if anyone wants to, you know, like me to email them the scans to check out if they're interested in buying them, just let me know because I can send you these. Yeah, it's a really, really fun hobby, and it's like a little bit like a treasure hunt. And these are all Doug Mahnke. And then we're going to get to some Ryan Benjamin. Batman and I think Nightwing. I will have more to sell, but for right now, I've got about 50 pieces lined up that I'm going to move, and I'll focus on that first. It's like sometimes people will go like, "What do you have for sale?" It's like, well, I've been doing comics for 20 years. There's a lot in there, but I'm not going to go through it all right now to have you go, I didn't see anything I like. I've had that. You spend 5 hours scanning shit for someone, and they never really were planning on buying anything. You can get a vibe. I can sense it. I can tell. Like, if they don't have an art gallery that they've already collected art and stuff like that, they're just looky-loos. Which there's nothing wrong with being a looky-loo, to be clear, but it's like, you have to be realistic. It's original art. You're not going to get it for like $20. It doesn't. The stuff doesn't sell for that price. So, a spread like this might be a couple grand. An interior page might be 180, 250. It just depends on what's on it. But I mean, you're not going to get the premium stuff for cheap. It's just not the way it goes. But this is what I recommend if you are on a real limited budget and you want to get into collecting art. Find artists that are really good that aren't big yet, that aren't popular, and try to support them. Everybody wants the superstar art, but all these superstars, it's at one point were in the trenches trying to make a living and survive long enough to actually become a big deal. So use some foresight. You see someone with a lot of potential, support them. Like, it could be some of the indie creators that are doing crowdfunded books, whatever it is. But they need the help more than anyone, to be honest. It's hard work and a hard job. I guess this is just a second scan of it. But yeah, I mean, for years I had art that I couldn't even give away, and that's the other thing too, is you pay your dues. It's like, I still to this day, there's art I wouldn't even put on eBay to sell. It wouldn't even be worth it. It's funny because I'm friends with some pretty successful artists, and it's funny how their idea of what wouldn't sell for them is so different. It's like, oh man, that page would only sell for $100. It's not even worth the effort. And I'm like, $100? You kidding me, dude? I'll take $100 pages. It'll sell all day. Give me them. It's funny. But it's all perspective, right? Yesterday I did a really great video for Patreon. I went over Bryan Hitch. Sorry for the redundant files in here. I don't know how that happened. I must have accidentally dropped them in. But yeah, I did like a 50-minute video going over Bryan Hitch's Authority work. It was really interesting. I actually watched it back 2 times and was kind of just soaking it in. It was really, really good art and interesting to go back and look at it. I hadn't seen it in a while, and I don't plug my Patreon real hard, but I am proud of it. And look, the reality is there's like between 700 and 800 videos up there, and you can get in for frickin' $1. All right, $1. If you're someone that's on a budget, you've no fucking excuse. Get your ass over there. Come on, don't be that person. It's 4 quarters. You could probably find it in your car if you dug around hard enough, and just do it for a month and check it out. I mean, I'm encouraging you to do it because I think that it would actually benefit people, especially if you're an aspiring artist. You're never ever gonna find a place that's got more educational content, even for $3. It's like, it's just not going to happen. It's interesting too, because I'm not going to say the artist's name, but someone that I've followed kind of peripherally for a while went over to Patreon, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm surprised that they're actually giving a window into their work. And it's kind of like the people that come to YouTube and they're like, I'm going to do YouTube. And it's like, you're like, you realize this is work. And then they vanish. It's like, shit, the free money is cool, or well, whatever. Like, the perception of like, oh, this will be another revenue source is cool. And then it's like, no. Like, when you do Patreon, you actually work. You now have the responsibility to create content for people. You can upload works in progresses of your work or whatever you're going to do, but people, you know, they want to support you, but they also, you know, they're expecting some sort of content. So this is Ryan Benjamin, and this is from, I think, two different books. This might be Batman Giant and then Nightwing. They're really, really kick-ass pages. A little tiny bit more affordable than the Doug Mahnke stuff. And then also, these were inked over a blue line. You will probably see it a little bit here and there, but I try to print the blue pretty light, and so you know, usually it shouldn't be too intrusive. It depends. We'll see. Some of these files may be grayscale. The blue crops that you're seeing right now are actually just a digital thing. That's more. I tend to work on the back of artboards, so when I print my blue lines, you won't actually see the crops. I work on the back of the board where there's no DC logos and all that stuff. No, not any reason for DC. I don't like having to clean it up when I'm done inking, so it just makes scanning the pages better. But these are really cool pages. You've got Punchline and just a lot of really cool characters in these, and the Joker is in it, and Ryan is great. But you can see some real nice like inking textures and stuff like that. These are great to study too. I have recommended to people that are into traditional inks. This is all done traditionally. These are great study tools. You know, you get to see the size of the lines that I throw down. You can see, you know, if you look at it closely, you could probably tell if it's Croquill or not Micron, Copic multi-liner or brush or whatever, and Ryan's got a real good style. It's graphic and yet detailed. He gives me room to do some kind of cool textures here and there. And he's really good at like dynamic poses and stuff like that. So these are real fun pages. They generally sell actually really well. He has an art dealer over in Japan named Yoshi. Yoshi watches my channel too. What's up, Yoshi? Yoshi sells his art over in Japan. So I sent Yoshi a big box of art before COVID, and probably, you know, in a few months, as things start to open up, I might send him another batch if it looks like there's going to be comic book conventions in Japan. But Ryan is one of those guys. He's big in Japan. This is really cool. Yeah, like again, all traditional, you know. And it's tight inks. You know, this stuff is pretty clean and accurate. It's interesting. I was going to talk about this too, so this is actually a good segue. I know that right now it seems like I've turned my back on inking. You're like, Rich, you're the inker guy. Come on, man. The fuck? Where are the inking videos? Don't do this to me. I'll do more inking focused stuff in a bit. I promise you. But I had to focus on penciling. I have to clearly rebrand myself as a fully realized writer and artist. The days of collaborative inking are behind me. Did you hear that? That was the door shutting. No. But it is true. So, but yeah, so to continue to do inking videos and stuff like that is just not going to benefit where I need to go with things. You know, it's like, you know, it's like I'm working on the new thing, but I'm not turning my back on inking by any means. I'm good at this, you know, I'm really good at inking, but I worked very, very hard to get to the level that I got with it. Now I have an opportunity to not only ink, but draw my own stuff and ink it. And it's exciting. And, you know, it's what I think what's really fun about that process and why I've sort of been a little bit, selfish with it in terms of like, giving myself the opportunity to work on it in private and develop it and try it out and test it and do all these things I've done is I'm real particular about what I like. And when you finally get the opportunity to go, all right, the things that bugged me in so-and-so's work when I would ink them, or I never liked doing this or that, you can not do that, you know, and it sounds pretty cut and dry, but there's a lot of thought that goes into it. You know, it's like, how are you going to handle shapes? How are you going to handle the rendering out of the shapes? Are you going to render out of the shapes? Are you going to use rendering at all? If you are going to render, where are you going to put it? You know what I mean? It's like, I know what people want from me and what they expect from me, and I definitely will deliver that. But you know, there was some thought in it. So these you can see, these are RGB scans, so you can see a little bit of the blue in the files a bit more. And the only thing on these pages that I'll just point out is this effect right here was actually done digitally when I printed out the blue line. The only reason being is Ryan had been doing a lot of kind of washy, sort of weird effects, and he was a lot of times going in after I was done inking the pages and kind of just redoing it digitally. And so I was like, well, I would rather do the effect myself. And if he, what ends up happening, this happened with Vic too. I'll point this out, and a little bit with Dan Fraga too. Fraga, when I inked him, is these are guys that are used to seeing stuff digitally done now, even though most of them work traditionally at times. But their eyes get calibrated to a digital look, and when you work traditionally, although you can mimic some of the digital effects, it still isn't going to be that pixel perfect, you know, sort of vibe that they're looking for. It'd be like Jorge Jimenez is a good example. Jorge Jimenez works digitally. Now, you could reproduce a lot of the stuff that he does traditionally. It's never going to look probably exactly right to him because he's so used to seeing it done digitally. And so I just opted to just do it that way so that it would have a little bit of this, like the blurred edges and stuff like that. You could do it with wash. I mean, I would try it on my own work. I didn't want to really try it on something that was on a deadline and needed to be done quickly. So just these fence areas that kind of like look a little different. Those are printed on the board with the blue line. I think some of the splatter I did traditionally. Sometimes though, I will say this though, if you print something like this out on your blue line, you can't really ink over it. It creates a little bit of a film that, like, trying to go over it with a Croquis and stuff like that, it's like, this is all traditional. But yeah, it's actually sometimes doesn't take ink over it, so it's an interesting thing. Rendery, people love this shit. Ryan always gives me spots to do it. I don't even know if he actually does it intentionally or not, or if I just see it and go like, I'm gonna do lots of lines there. But it's really fun. And these are full bleed, meaning like if it was in the comic book, it would look a little bit more like this. When you would see in the comic, it would be probably cropped right about. Pull this up a little bit. Something like this, probably a little higher down here at the bottom, so that her legs wouldn't be. But you know what I mean. That's what it would kind of look like, maybe in the comic book, closer. No, 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 no. Oh yeah, look at those lines. Running and running and jumping and running and jumping and running and running and jumping. I remember this panel. Oh, the memories. I actually inked Ryan for a pretty long time, on and off for like 3 or 4 years. It was fun. He's really good. He's like, I mean, he's worked hard on his art, but he's kind of like a natural. Like he takes to things really, really quickly. So like when he wants to learn something new, he's like, he just dives right in. He's got no fear at all. It's pretty impressive. Well, if I was going to give him a nickname, it would be Ryan No Fear Benjamin. It's like, what is that, ZBrush? Like 4 hours later, he'd be like totally doing cool stuff in it. Although ZBrush has been around for a long time now, but 3D coat, I don't know, whatever the new thing is. Although I think there actually is a new ZBrush that came out not too long ago. ZBrush is so cool. I follow a guy on Instagram that's really good in Blender, and man, he's doing some great looking stuff. I love sculpture and stuff like that. This is a really, really cool page. Yeah, like 3D models, traditional sculpture and stuff like that. Boy, I think it's just so fun to look at and to study, and you really, really get a sense of form, and it's real light, you know, shading it, generally speaking. Well, except if it's digital. But yeah, it's actually, I would find it very, very inspiring. This is nice too. It's an interesting page because it's just 3 big headshots. Like, this one's big, And then these are huge. And then you got all my fancy calligraphy going on around here. Ryan's a maniac with this, like in his commissions and stuff like that. Oh my god, he goes nuts with this like dry brush effect. It looks really, really cool. I actually like it quite a bit. He uses like one of those chisel like Sharpies, which that's the only reason I don't mimic it on the pages is because it's Sharpie. You know what I mean? I don't want to use Sharpie on thing. All right, god damn it. Don't crop. Let's shut it. Oh, I love this page. This is probably one of my favorite pages that we did on this particular book, The Nightwing. I think this is just so kick-ass. This one's going to be tough to get from me. I would hang on to this for a while. Probably at some point I would sell it, but I do really like this page. All right, I'm going to have to shut this door. My neighbor's hammering. He's like, oh, Rich is shooting a video. Quick, it's time to hammer in the backyard. It's like, are you making anything? No, he's just hammering. Yeah, that's so badass. Dude, this in a frame would look great. Let's see this. Crop it right about there. Image, crop. It's a little tiny bit off. Ooh, that would look nice. Let's do this. I'm all enjoying my own work. Ah, it's so good. It almost has a little bit of like an Ed Benes vibe. Ed Benes, when I worked with him, did stuff like this. It was really interesting inking Ed Benes, and it's really actually a shame that we didn't work together longer. But Ed seemed like he was a little like torn on where he was going with things, and he did ultimately do his creator own thing. I don't know if it's in people's hands yet, but that was I think what his heart was telling him. But Benes is like, he's really, really good, and he's got this like cartoony thing going on in his art. But when you see his pencils, you definitely can tell he's got like some Neil Adams or one of those like old school, really, really good artists. And this is Ryan Benjamin, to be clear, but it reminds me of the Benes stuff, I think, because of this rendering. But man, this is a nice page. I like it. This is cool. Everyone's smiling. So yeah, thank you so much for 19,000 subs. Here's to the next 11. I was saying on Twitter this morning that my goal for some weird reason has always been 30,000 followers. I really felt like if I could get to 30,000 subscribers, that I really would have had, I think I've created something pretty solid in terms of a channel, and building it the way that I've done it, which is kind of not based on hype and sort of trigger posts, you know. It's like, again, like going back to like the guitar videos and stuff that I watch. I mean, there's definitely channels that I follow that they really, really try to, you know, stay like on the cutting edge of like the big dramas that are out there, and I just never really wanted to go that route. I honestly don't follow it that closely to begin with, so I would be the wrong person to even ask like what sort of like what are people pissed about today. I most of the time would have no idea, but you know, that does definitely get more views, you know. It can. I'll start talking about Johnny Depp and a man, or I don't even know what her name is. Heard something. No. What's the other hot topic? See, I would embarrass myself if I said it, because everyone would go, dude, that was like 3 months ago. The new thing that everyone's mad about is this. And I'm talking about pop culture stuff, not real world things. Us is a great page too. Yeah, I try to keep it light and fun. It's interesting. I didn't realize that we rendered so much on these pages. I'm like, oh, we did a decent amount of hatching. I actually really enjoy doing these techniques. And if you're interested in learning this technique, look, I've got, if you search my YouTube channel, these are public videos, although I've done them for Patreon also. Just look for like hatching, like cross hatching video, or I think hatching with like a micron. You'll learn the techniques, like hatching with a pen. And then I've also done brush inking videos. But you can learn these techniques. This is what I said yesterday on Patreon, and I really do believe that this is true. The basic core techniques of inking are very small amount of techniques overall compared to drawing. really, if you learn 20 or 30 sort of things, like how to feather a line, how to do a crosshatch, how to do a waggle stroke and all that, you pretty much are inking. And then I'll explain this even actually a little bit in depth because it's an interesting thing. So there are certain pencilers that are much easier to ink and sort of flex on if you're a beginning inker. One in particular would be actually David Finch. David Finch is actually not that hard to ink, and if you understand how to feather a line and you follow his black areas, your stuff will actually look pretty solid. Now you take that same inker and throw them on someone like Doug Mahnke, you better be able to draw because he doesn't hold your hand in the least, and it's a lot of you figuring out exactly what his stuff means. It's very challenging. And there's everything in between. So what my point is with that is you learn all these techniques and you get good at controlling your line. Whether you want it tight or loose is your own decision on that. Then you need to get better and better at understanding form, at being able to look at the pencils and understand what form they're indicating. This goes for colorists too. To learn the basic techniques of coloring is very similar to inking. You can kind of, and this is how I broke in as an inker, to be honest, was I got good at all the basic techniques. I could feather neatly and I could do this and I could do that, but I didn't know how to draw comic book art. And so as soon as I was on someone that was loose, I really didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to translate those lines into solid form because I didn't understand the suggested form in the objects that I was inking. So the next thing that you're going to want to do after you get good at doing all these sort of visually, aesthetically pleasing techniques is you need to start to understand form and the landscape that all of this stuff falls over. And then as you try to ink different pencilers or you're inking yourself, you kind of put that into play. So, all right. Again, thank you for 19,000 subscribers. It'll probably drop below 19,000 today because sometimes when you do a new video, you do lose subscribers. They're like, what? Oh man, this guy's uploading stuff again. I'm out of here. But yeah, and all of this work is for sale. So if you're interested, I'll have the email address in the description box, and you can drop me a note and I'll send you all of the JPEGs priced, and you can look through and see if you want to get anything. And yeah, all right, have a great day. Oh wait, looks like there's one more. What is this? Oh, Batman. I think it's interesting. I feel like it's missing a page or two. This is nice. Ryan, he captures a little bit of the Jim Lee spirit with his Batman. Let me see something really quick. Is it in here? I had done a piece with Batman and Catwoman. Let me see something. These are the raw files before I had resized them. I just want to see if it's in here really fast. I guess it's not in here. It must be from Batman Giant. So I actually even do have more art that I'll share. But yeah, so I'm going to be going through a bunch of stuff and selling a bunch of art over the next few weeks, and actually getting rid of quite a few books. So it'll be a slow process. My goal is to maybe spend 1 hour a day sort of prepping stuff and then putting it online. Patreon's going to get first crack at it, although this art stuff anyone can. But yeah, as I get more stuff ready to go, I will present it on Patreon just as a little thank you to them, and if they're interested in buying a book that I'm selling or whatever, they can have first chance to grab them. But yeah, I want to get rid of about 50% of my book collection, and then a whole bunch of this old not old, but DC art that I have. I need to make room for what's coming, and I'm out of space. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great day. I love you all, and have fun with your drawing, and just enjoy it. That's the most important thing. If you find that you're getting clenched up and stressed about it, then just dial it back a few steps and say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to draw for myself for fun for a few days and let this thing mellow out. I actually gave advice to someone that I've known. I met him at a comic book convention. He's on my Patreon now, but hadn't seen him in like. You remember him too? My cat's talking to me. Here, I'll open this for you. and he said that he was getting frustrated and he would get kind of confused with what to do with his work. And this is what I told him: is I said, look, I go, just sit down and draw for a couple of days for fun and don't judge it. That's the most important thing, is just sit down, get the pencil moving, and draw whatever's on your mind. Whether it's something that you've drawn 50 million times and you feel like you're repeating yourself, it doesn't matter. But you have to get some momentum going. That's the most important thing, is just get used to drawing again for a few days or 5 days or 6 days. And again, even if it's you're doing a profile of a head and you're like, man, I already know how to draw this, I'm not stretching. You have to get the momentum, and then you can branch out from there. Then you turn the head a little bit, you know. I'm actually excited. I've got a new patron that's going to take a lesson, and based on his letter, I'm very, very excited for him, because he's frustrated and confused right now, and I'm excited. I hope I can help this guy, and there would be nothing more kick-ass than, you know, him being able to take what I tell him, and him or her, I think it's a guy, and you know, get going with his work, his or her work, and get to their goal. So it'll be fun. But all right, I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great day. Bye.